You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for December 10th, 2024. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where, since we don't play stupid pundit games, we won't win stupid pundit prizes. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. Hey, Blue Gal.
Hey, Driftglass. What is a stupid pundit prize?
A lifetime supply of Kristen Welker. Thanks for asking. Thanks for playing our game. Because, Blue Gal, there's a war out there.
It's a real war, kid. It's here every day.
This is a war between those who don't want to look reality in the face, look history in the face and see how we got where we are, and those of us who do. And currently the odds are kind of against us. But, you know, aren't they always, Blue Gal? Aren't they? Aren't we always?
They usually are.
Fighting uphill?
Never tell me the odds, Driftglass.
Never tell me the odds. Exactly. Now, the specific war this time is between people like you and me, and the many, many political professionals and pundits who refuse to pass any sort of judgment against Republican voters. These are the people, you know who they are, who live and die by the injunction that the voter is never to blame for anything. And the mountain of lies and evasions that political professionals and pundits have piled up to excuse Republican voter depravity over the decades is what has caused Republican voters to become depraved.
And Johnny, was his latest treason your idea? I found him cheating and I said he's just a boy. I've watched him steal and whore and whip his servants, and he's not a child. He's the man we made him.
These are the voters who are absolved of the civic sin of not knowing anything and not really wanting to know anything. And they're absolved by being labeled low information voters.
Mm-hmm.
Wikipedia had an interesting quote about this. Quote, American pollster and political scientist Samuel Popkin coined the term low information in 1991 when he used the phrase low information signaling in his book, The Reasoning Voter, Communication and Persuasion in Presidential Campaigns. Low information signaling referred to cues or heuristics used by voters in lieu of substantial information to determine whom to vote for. Examples include voters liking Bill Clinton for eating at McDonald's and perceiving John Kerry and Barack Obama as elitist for windsurfing and golfing, respectively, unquote. And we all remember how elitist Barack Obama was just because he went to play golf all the time.
I understand that he owned like 3 golf courses and was just golfing all the time.
One overseas, in Kenya, that Kenyan golf course.
It's wild how much he golfed, and that's why people didn't like him. That he was elitist because he golfed all the time. And right. I understand he had a golden toilet and a golden condo and
elitism, and he wouldn't lead.
And a dress-up hooker wife that he bought off the internet. So,
So all of this of the reasoning voter stuff, this is all what the late George Carlin called soft language.
Smug, greedy, well-fed white people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that.
Low information voter is a soft language way of saying stupid voters, gullible voters, willfully ignorant voters.
Yep.
But even that isn't sufficient. If your phone starts flashing low battery or your car warns you that you're low on fuel, everybody knows that means what you have to do, right? What you have to do if the red light's flashing or it says E. It means a thing that needs to be full of something to continue to function correctly is very nearly empty, and you better do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And since the warning light over Republican voters has been flashing red for decades, over and over again, Democratic political professionals have reached the wrong conclusion about what to do about it. We just need better policies. We need better messaging. We need more clearly stated policies. maybe we just need a better spokesperson, preferably someone who's white and male and a fighter, but, is also kind of nice and you have a beer with him because then he won't alienate anyone.
Sure.
Except Driftglass. We have better policies.
We sure
we have
do.
more popular policies.
We sure
when
do.
When you state the policy without a party affiliation, 70% of voters want these policies.
That's right.
And I would argue, and a lot of people agree with me, in 2024, we had a way better spokesperson.
Hell of a better. Mm-hmm.
And she lost, pardon me for saying it, I apologize for the audio that's about to come up. She lost to this idiot.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
Yeah, the problem with the term low information voter is not the word voter, and it's not the word information. What do we have left after we eliminate the word voter and information? It's the word low. Because these people are not starved for information. They are, in fact, stuffed full of information. They've got all the facts at their fingertips. They have information stuffed in their head like Bill Clinton was a drug dealer. He dealt drugs out of the Mena airport, and Hillary Clinton had Vince Foster murdered. I can take you to people in my town who are pillars of the community who swear Hillary Clinton had Vince Foster murdered. Barack Obama was a Kenyan-born communist sleeper cell. Barack Obama was also the most divisive president in American history. And as we all know, Joe Biden is the most corrupt president in history. And the 2020 election was rigged. And on and on and on and on and on. We all know, we all have their own private litany of crazy shit people absolutely believe and will swear on a stack of Bibles is true. One of your favorites is Solyndra, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
These are not low information voters. They are tribal voters.
They starve to death in a storage compartment full of grain. They starve to death. That is essentially it.
These are not low information voters. These are no information voters, or maybe even more fairly, anti-information voters. But this isn't a fact of our civic life in this country that the legacy media is willing to allow into the conversation. Because, first of all, it's terrifying to think that 49% or so of the public are completely fucking brain dead and full of crazy thoughts, and you can't reach them by any means. But it's also very bad for ratings. You can't go around selling ads to people when you tell them half the country's nuts or stupid. Remember the entire legacy media dogpiling Hillary Clinton for, accurately describing a large segment of the Republican base as a basket of deplorables. Anybody remember that? I sure do.
Yeah.
Do you remember the freak out over the placement of an apostrophe by Joe Biden? This was less than a month and a half ago, and everybody lost their fucking minds.
Yep.
We have some examples because we do our homework here. This is from the AP White House altered record of Biden's garbage remarks.
From Politico, White House altered Biden transcript.
From the New York Post, the White House and its media allies ran a cover-up for President Biden after he maligned former President Donald Trump's supporters as garbage.
The Angry Grammarian Substack.
That's my favorite.
The punctuation heard or imagined round the world.
Yeah. And Fox and Friends, White House under scrutiny, by whom I don't know, for apostrophe edit.
The Guardian, White House press office altered transcript of Biden. That one is so funny because it's as if the White House press office doesn't edit and alter transcripts all the time.
Yeah.
For clarity.
For clarity and correctness. Yeah.
Yes.
This is from Reuters. Stenographers object to press office alteration of Biden's blah, blah, blah. Which stenographers? I don't know any stenographers personally who objected to this, but apparently Reuters had a whole bunch of them who objected as a group for some reason.
And the New York effing Times, I should say fucking, White House altered official transcript of Biden's remarks.
And of course, to bring it all home, Sky News, is Biden's garbage comment another Clinton deplorables?
Yep. It kind of is.
It kind of is. But for the reasons they don't want to talk about.
Not the way they think it is. That's right. Yeah. This is the legacy media screaming loud and clear that no Democratic politician or media person may even hint at the possibility that some Republican voters are just fucking awful people.
Yeah.
And if you even brush up against that idea by accident, we in the media are going to drop a house on your head.
Absolutely. And we watch it happen over and over again.
Yeah.
And this is also the legacy media making it 100% clear that no Republican politician or media person will ever be held to the same standard. Nope, never going to happen.
Yeah.
The media will shrug and they'll transcribe whatever horrifying shit Trump says on any given day about us crazy communist, baby-killing liberal lefties who hate America, but you'll never see them running the kind of breathless, wall-to-wall hysterics they ran over apostrophe gate. And why? Why?
Yeah.
Why,
Yeah.
Blue Gal? It seems like basic fairness. Because the fact that Trump and other leading Republicans lie constantly and they viciously slander anyone who speaks against them isn't news anymore.
Right.
And the fact that Republican voters, who collapsed en masse under their fainting couches over Biden's apostasy, which is a hard thing to say, the fact that those people just smirk and nod their big dumb heads when Republicans routinely do 1,000 times worse to Democrats, that's not news either.
I remembered what I wanted to tell you earlier, Driftglass, when we were rehearsing this show.
Yes, dear.
This past week, Donald Trump nominated Monica Crowley to serve as Assistant Secretary of State and Chief of Protocol.
Yeah.
Now, we all remember Monica Crowley as a plagiarist.
Sure.
And an utter nut job. Crooks and Liars has an absolute highlight reel of Monica Crowley saying crazy shit.
Right.
But when I had to write about that this last week, I went with the most recent Monica Crowley video we had, which was her from the Faith and Freedom Conference this year, in which she told a cheering audience, you won't believe this, Driftglass, although you probably will, that Joseph McCarthy was right.
That's right. Yeah.
And that the government is infiltrated with communists. 57 communists, Driftglass.
Right. And Eisenhower knows all about it, Blue Gal.
He knows all about it. And we should get after Eisenhower.
Impeach Earl Warren, Blue Gal.
And I'm telling you, the audience at the Faith and Freedom Conference was clapping.
Of course they were.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is why it's not news. Crooks and Liars covered that.
Sure.
Okay. The liberal blogosphere remembers.
We do.
We remember Monica Crowley, right? She was also one that said Sarah Palin was Anne Margaret and Kitten with a whip.
Yeah. Well, she was on the McLaughlin group every fucking week.
Saying
and
stuff
why?
like that.
Because I think that's where John McLaughlin parked his wiener during his final days.
Yeah. So this messaging that Republican voters, are low information. They're getting information from Monica Crowley. And a whole lot of other, blonde prostitutes on right-wing media. And that's why it isn't news. The legacy media knows that Republican voters aren't low information voters at all.
Right.
They're packed full of information, garbage information. They're garbage voters. Put on a garbage bag right now, voters. I don't care. They don't just feed on garbage. They choose Monica Crowley as their source of information. They choose to feed on garbage. And it just doesn't matter how you explain the basic facts of the real world to them.
He doesn't understand. Explain as you would a child.
We're going to be using that audio a lot in the coming months.
Yes, we are. And thank you, Galaxy Quest. You shouldn't have won the Hugo Award. We all know who should have that year, but we do appreciate you. And that was a very good movie, and I enjoyed it very much. When offered an alternative to garbage, they run away from it and curse the condescending, elitist, woke liberal who tried to tell them that the 2020 election wasn't rigged and that Trump lies to them all the time. They'll tell you that's just your opinion, your opinion. Or they'll tell you they've done their own research. By golly, those low information voters sure seem to spend a lot of their time doing research, Blue Gal.
Yep.
It's a waste of energy to try to scold or persuade or reason a junkie out of their addiction. That's what this is. It's an addiction. We tried giving them less destructive alternatives to their lifestyle like Clinton and Obama. Remember how that worked out, Blue Gal?
I
Now,
do.
this was me writing in April of 2011, before Trump ever showed up, long before Trump ever showed up. And this, what I wrote here about Clinton goes double for Barack Obama. Quote, April 2011, quote, objectively, Clinton qualifies as the greatest center-right president in history. And with balanced budgets and GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades, welfare reform, NAFTA, the Defense of Marriage Act, record surpluses, not deficits, foreign and domestic terrorists brought to book, an actual military victory, he arguably delivered to the wingnuts more of everything they ever said they wanted than anyone else. And they fucking hated him for it. Why? Why? Because Clinton was mere addiction maintenance, delivered in measured doses under adult supervision. All policy wonk shit that wasn't cut with that industrial waste grade, bigoted, psychotic bloodlust that gives conservatism its wild freebasing edge. Clinton was methadone. And for the hardcore lifestyle junkie, that shit is for babies, unquote.
That was my husband blogging in 2011.
Yep.
Now, we've used the two sets of books analogy on this podcast before. Republican aristocrats, the leadership, and the conservative media used to keep two sets of books. One book was kept for governing. It had the nuts and bolts of quote-unquote reality, causality, and history inside. All the stuff you need if you're actually going to take governing seriously.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you're not going to cut taxes, but it means you're gonna staff, the State Department with actual career professionals.
Yeah, it's the kind of book that Cheney worked from
Dick
and
Cheney.
Bush worked from.
Right.
These aren't good people, but they understood the need to understand how reality actually worked.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The other book had all the bullshit they fed to the stupids in it. Lies, slander, straw men, paranoid conspiracies, all the stuff Republican leadership needed to tell the stupids in order to get them to vote for Republicans. So Republicans could do all the stuff they wanted to do in the first book.
Mm-hmm.
Cut taxes, end regulations, invade Iraq.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
But at some point along the way, the stupid majority began taking the party away from the aristocratic minority. And the voters burned that first book.
Yep.
Now their only operating manual is the second book, full of lies, slander, straw men, and paranoid conspiracies.
Mm-hmm. That's all they have. That's all they have left. They think that is reality because, honestly, Republican aristocrats told them that was reality for the last 40 years.
Right.
So, and the same thing is going on in the legacy media. There's one set of books. They damn well know what Republican voters are really like. They know they're dumb. They know they're gullible. They know they're brainwashed. They know they're bigots. They know they're imbeciles. They know they're gun nuts. They know they're white dominionists. They know all the shit about the Republican voters we all know because it's all very clear. But the second set of books says, how dare you say anything derogatory about Republican voters, period. Mm-hmm. And by the way, based on her performance on Meet the Press this Sunday, I think Kristen Welker has a very bright future ahead of her at NBC. And the reason is she and Donald had a real Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough vibe going between them. Trump would lie to her and bully her and talk over her and just bulldoze her anytime she opened her mouth. And she'd try and fail to get a word in edgewise. Crooks and Liars has the transcript up, but it was like, but yeah, I see. Yeah, but you see, if, and then she looked frustrated. It's Joe and Mika. They're a perfect TV couple for the new Trump administration.
Before we do a news roundup, I want to read some segments from a blog post from one of our old school blogger friends across the internet, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Steve M. at No More Mr. Nice blog. We often cross-post him at Crooks and Liars, link him at the news roundup. He's a very good long-form writer. Yeah.
And a fellow Brooksologist, I must say.
Oh, and a fellow Brooksologist,
mm-hmm.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
David Brooks critic, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And he's no fan of the New York fucking Times either, for the most part.
Yeah.
But he wrote up this morning, members of the latest Times focus group voted for a parallel universe Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to read a couple segments from this. We're going to link the whole thing in our show notes. You should definitely bookmark Steve M's blog, No More Mr. Nice blog.
Right.
He's just a really good long-form writer, and we like him a lot. The New York Times has just published another focus group roundtable, this one involving 14 voters who described Donald Trump as extreme and differed with him on some key issues, including abortion rights, and decided to vote for him anyway. I wonder if they met at an Ohio diner, Driftglass. In some ways, I'm going back to Steve M., in some ways, these voters will get what they want from Trump. They don't like undocumented immigrants, and as one participant puts it, they think we need someone a little arrogant to straighten up the world. But in many ways, they back an imaginary parallel universe Trump, someone who doesn't exist in the real world. Mm-hmm. And I would add to that, someone who's not going to make them look bad.
Well, and along those lines, we've said a 1,000 times on this show that the conservative legacy media, the pundits, the elites of the media have been selling us a completely imaginary Republican Party for decades.
Right.
That we've been telling them that's not the people we know. That's not the base. That's not what they want. And we've been told to sit down and shut up, that they know what the people want. They want
absolutely
tax reform and a balanced budget. That's what they want.
They want a balanced budget and reasonable conservatism when it comes to regulations, So, okay. Trump, this is Steve M. Trump apparently made populist promises on a frequency only these voters could hear. This is from Seneca. She's 28 years old, white, from Arizona, and a charge specialist. I voted for him because I thought he was really smart and really good with money. And then also healthcare. I think it's really cool that he's going to take on fighting the big healthcare corporations that are charging insane amounts and hopefully get that under control. And Steve M. said, oh, yeah, that'll happen.
Sure. Maybe Trump will get insulin down to $35 a shot.
Oh, wait. Mm-hmm. Steve M. again. On immigration, many of these people seem to expect a level of moderation that absolutely won't happen in an administration where Stephen Miller and Tom Homan have top positions. Mary is 50 years old and Asian. She's from Wyoming, and she's an assistant. There needs to be some type of metric or something. You can't just drive a bus down the road and say, hey, show me your papers or get on the bus and we're taking you to Mexico or whatever. I know that there's a lot of hardworking immigrants here who deserve a shot. Mm-hmm. If they've been here for 10, 15 years contributing, I see no problem with that. And here's Steve M. You can't just drive a bus down the road and say, hey, show me your papers or get on the bus and we're taking you to Mexico or whatever. That's literally the Trump administration's policy on immigration, as Trump explained every time he spoke on the subject. Mm-hmm. These people voted for Trump, but they don't want him to be, extreme or anything. The moderator, Patrick Healy, asked, is there anything that concerns you about a Trump presidency? Is there anything you don't want him to do as president? Mm-hmm. Chris, 46, white, Pennsylvania, he's a line technician, said, I just hope that it doesn't go to his head and he starts to get reckless. And Kathy, with an I, 57, white, from Ohio, and she's in property management, said, I'm a little bit with Chris on that. But it does seem like this so-called election, he's been much better about containing himself. Steve M. replies, what was it that persuaded you that Trump has been better about containing himself, Kathy, with an I? Mm-hmm. Was it the time he talked about Arnold Palmer's penis? Was it when he called Kamala Harris a shit vice president in the same rally? Was it his threat to put members of the House January 6th committee in prison? Mm-hmm. Or was it when he accused the news media of treason? These people aren't worried about the FBI or Justice Department either. This is Joseph, 55. He's white, he's from Minnesota, and he's a handyman. You have to have people that are able, this is about the FBI and Justice Department. I just want to remind you of that. You have to have people that are able to follow the laws of America, the Constitution, and not have somebody that wants to bend the rules and enforce whatever their mindset might be at the time. Steve M. replies, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure Kash Patel and Pant Bondi are selfless public servants whose only loyalty is to the rule of law. And here's a concluding statement from one of the participants. Noah is 62. He's Latino from Texas, and he's retired. I think our country would be better off having a more informed citizenry and where people argue their own ideas, not just their party's statement on everything from immigration to the economy.
Okay.
Steve M. concludes, a more informed citizenry where people aren't just listening to party propaganda? Yeah, that would be nice.
That'd be great. That'd be just great.
Thank you, Steve M. There's more there at the link. It's all gold.
It's meaty. It's delicious.
But it gives us exactly fodder for this entire podcast.
Well, and just to go back to where we started, there really is a fight between looking at these people as a political strategist and saying, well, this is just where they are. This is just who they are. And you have to meet them where they are. You can't disrespect their opinions. You can't, hold them accountable for things. You can't blame them for being stupid and believing propaganda. And people like us who say, yeah, you can. You absolutely can. They're adults. Aren't these the remnants of the party of personal responsibility? Isn't that what they ran on for decades? And the idea that we're just going to listen to these idiots spout nonsense that they use to make up their minds and either say they're just low information, they don't know anything about anything, when they clearly have opinions, and the opinions are coming from somewhere, and it's not the real world, so where's it coming from? Well, it's coming from One American News Network, it's coming from Fox, and it's coming from Facebook, it's coming from all kinds of places full of terrible people pushing awful ideas. And I'm
just throwing up my hands at this point,
Yeah.
I have gotten to the habit after the election of knitting late into the night sometimes.
Yes.
And the commercials that come on after 11 of the, women are waiting to talk to you on the phone kind of thing.
Yes.
I feel like those are the ads the Democrats need to make.
Oh, yeah.
Of just hot chicks with big boobs in your face saying, vote for Democrats. It makes me hot.
That's right. You want to get in ladies' pants? Gentlemen, let me tell you. You know what?
Yeah.
Medicare for all will open a whole bunch of doors, if you know what I mean. Medicare for all, panties off is what I say.
It's true.
Yeah, and it is ludicrous to argue. This is where the punditocracy, the focus group holders and conveners, and the people who take this stuff and try to turn it into a strategy drive me nuts. Because on the one hand, you're saying these people are just, innocent children who don't understand anything, but they also have very firmly held beliefs, and you have to try to persuade them. You can't just try to dupe them into voting for you. You have to use persuasion, except you can't persuade them away from crazy, stupid shit they believe because, as they've demonstrated, they don't pay attention to the real world. So unless we buy Fox News and just use it, unless we get $1 trillion and buy up all the right-wing sites.
And that means mini skirts on the crotch couch reading Thom Hartmann columns, right? As I've said. Let's do a news roundup. The cornfield resistance persists. The legacy media is already trying to bury Joe Biden in a way that appeases Republicans.
Yep.
From the AP, the Associated Press, quote, by choosing to put his family first, the 82-year-old president, who had pledged to restore the public's trust in the nation's institutions and respect for the rule of law, has raised new questions about his already teetering legacy, unquote.
Yeah, remember.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. Remember, it's always Democrats' fault. Democrats are always responsible for Republicans for wiping their ass. If they don't want their ass wiped, that's our problem, apparently. Yep. Billionaire media mogul Jeff Bezos, ever heard of him, is continuing to sound very optimistic about Donald Trump, saying that Trump has grown over the last 8 years. He's calmer than he was the first time, more confident, more settled, says Bezos. Fuck you.
Again. The final numbers are in. Elon Musk spent over $250 million supporting Trump's reelection, including $20 million to a super PAC that was named after Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which named after the dead Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which framed Trump's abortion stance as moderate to attract swing voters. Musk donated $20.5 million to the RBG PAC, which attempted to argue that Trump and Ginsburg agreed on abortion, which they did not.
At all. Remember, when you hear swing voters, just mentally substitute stupid voters, and you'll understand why this shit works. In other corruption news, the Trump campaign dispersed $100,000 to a California law firm that lists Kennedy, RFK Jr., as one of its attorneys 3 weeks after he bowed out of the race and backed Donald Trump. Oh, isn't that convenient?
Paul Krugman is leaving the New York Times. Quote, and it's official. I'm immensely grateful to the world's greatest news organization for giving me a platform all these years and greatly appreciate the moving send-off. Nonetheless, I've decided to leave in search of more freedom in terms of both style and content.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And that's all I'm going to say for now because I'm still under contract to the New York Times for another week and a half, he didn't say. My so long and thanks for all the fish column will appear next week. As for future plans, watch this space. Unquote. Yeah, he needs more freedom to say what he really thinks.
Yeah. I look forward to the shrill one unshackled. That'll be fun. This is how Congressman Chip Roy, who is, I believe, the Loksek of Mensa in the Washington, D.C. area. Is that right? Do I have that right?
No.
Nope. This is how he dismissed Pete Hegseth's rape allegations, plural, quote, we've all had some indiscretions in our past and things like that, unquote. Ho's mad, Your Honor.
Ho's mad, Your Honor. The place we got that was youngest child's T-shirt that they are wearing around college.
Right. You know, liberal.
In Missouri.
Those liberals.
Where it is entirely appropriate.
Yeah. Yep.
Ho's mad, Your Honor. Mark Wayne Mullen is an American businessman and politician who has served as a junior United States Senator from Oklahoma since 2023, Driftglass. This is how Mark Wayne Mullen deflects revelations about Pete Hegseth's drinking. Jake Tapper said, drinking at 10 in the morning, that's a drinking problem. Mullen said, yeah, there's probably a lot of media that has a drinking problem too. Tapper, a drunk reporter who is drinking at 10 a.m. is not in charge of the 3 million person Defense Department.
Look, first of all,
there have been many times today already that I have said I need a drink. And I didn't take one because I'm at work.
Because you're at work, right. And you're in charge of 3 cats and a husband.
3 cats, and I'm a cheap date. One drink, it just makes me silly. So not going there.
I believe Pete Hegseth has gone from, I used to have a problem. If you give me the job running the Pentagon, I'll give up drinking. And by the way, I don't have a drinking problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, this is the classic alcoholic applying for a job way over his pay grade, and everyone knows he's a drunk thing.
Yeah. And this thing with the woman, she signed an NDA, and it is completely resolved.
Right. And these Republicans lining up to, you know, soak up bullets for him, soak up criticism for him, sit there and look at...
because if they don't, they'll get death threats.
Right.
And that's the way this party operates. Trump said he can't guarantee anything when asked whether his promised tariffs would increase prices for Americans in that Kristen Welker NBC so-called interview. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich, Trump said. Economists, however, have argued that Trump's proposal to impose a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, along with a 10% tariff on Chinese goods, would raise prices for U.S. consumers, since tariffs are paid by American companies importing the products and not by the exporting countries. When informed that economists agree that Americans would pay higher prices as a result of his plan, Trump dismissed the claim, saying, I don't believe that. When asked to guarantee American families wouldn't pay more, Trump replied, I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow.
Yeah, he's both president-elect and a low information voter at the same time.
Absolutely.
He's done his own research on tariffs, Blue Gal. He's done his own research.
And he loves the word.
He loves words.
It's the most beautiful word, Driftglass.
And I believe he went on a long riff about groceries. I'm the first person to mention groceries. I'm the first person to ever use that word groceries. Eggs, you know, and food. And, you know, what can you say at this point other than Republican voters are terrible, terrible people, or terribly stupid
If you ask
people.
any voter, Republican or Democrat, at the border if they want to pick strawberries and they're white, they don't.
They do. Oh, they're lining up for those strawberry picking jobs.
No, they're not.
Oh, I was misinformed. I did my own research. And
you did your own research. Okay.
Donald Trump also suggested he'll end birthright citizenship, as guaranteed by the Constitution, saying you have to deport everyone who's in the country illegally. Trump also suggested that mixed immigration status families should be deported together because he loves families so much, claiming that he has, quote, no choice, unquote, but to deport everyone, including U.S. citizens with undocumented family members. I don't want to break up families. So the only way you don't break up families is you keep them together and you have to send them all back, Trump said.
All right. I want to say something about these two stories.
Okay.
Because I think we've talked entirely too much about Trump in his interview with Christian Welker.
I agree.
We get a lot of comments and we get checks from people where on the subject line or the notation they've said therapy or sanity or I'm supporting you due to sanity. We get that at Patreon. So here's some sanity. Life is easier and your mental state more stable when you remind yourself every day that this completely incompetent person is a con man who doesn't understand or mean a goddamn word he says. We'll deal with what he does when he does it, not before.
Right.
And the people that he's putting in, I believe, are going to be the ones that destroy him. He doesn't understand that he's putting celebrity egos very close to him. And they're only dependent upon him up to a point. And then if it hurts their careers, it's going to be bad.
Well, and the minute
he lasts that long.
The minute they swear him in, he's a lame duck.
Yes.
And everyone's gunning. Everyone starts gunning for 2028. And that's fine.
Josh Hawley is at Senate committee meetings yelling at Louis DeJoy. Wearing a bright blue suit like he's a man of the people.
Right.
And yelling at Louis DeJoy about how I'm going to stop you from hurting my constituents.
Suddenly, Josh Hawley becomes a populist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know who else is going to be in the Senate yelling at people, Blue Gal?
Ooh, Driftglass.
My understanding is that Laura Trump, who has resigned as co-chair of the Republican National Committee, amid speculation that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will appoint her to fill the Senate seat vacated by Marco Dumbas Rubio, who Trump tapped for Secretary of State. It is something I would seriously consider, Laura Trump said. Yeah.
She put that out there before the RNC books get open to anybody who might want to look at them.
In fairness, she puts a lot out there, Blue Gal.
All right. And now here's some comic relief. Representative James Comer has been reelected by his conference to head up the House Oversight Committee.
Yay!
Committee member Jared Smurfy Moskowitz, who we just adore.
Yes, we do.
Jared Moskowitz, we just adore you. Said on social media, "My prayers have been answered. Thank you, Lord."
We're really counting on people like Jared. We really are.
I think he's got the right attitude, which is this committee under Jamie Comer is not just a joke, it's a show. It's a produced show for low information voters, people who get their information from Fox. And I swear to God, the guys on this committee are on text every day with Fox producers.
Yes.
This is a show being produced by Fox producers.
Yeah.
And Newsmax hosts.
Yeah. I mean, who were the first people to weigh in? Some of the first people to weigh in privately via text after January 6th. During January 6th. It was Fox News employees.
Right.
It was Laura Ingraham. It was Sean Hannity.
This. It's bad for the show.
It's bad for ratings, Yeah. And this is, it's a show. I mean, it's a show with terrible downside consequences and it hurts people. But the people who are going to be sitting in committee chairs understand this is a performance.
Yep.
And it's a performance for an audience that is going to watch because these are their guys. So they're kind of a captive audience. And so we're going to.
And they're promising to still go after Hunter Biden because they don't have anything else yet.
And we're going to put on, because we know these are dummies. James Comer is a dumbass.
Yeah.
And we know that we can swat around like a Nerf football.
And so you're going to have Jared Moskowitz and you're going to have AOC on this committee. And this is I've talked about this a lot, how much it drives me nuts when people on social media say, well, I think Elizabeth Warren should be Senate Majority Leader.
No.
You don't put your rock stars in administrative positions.
Right.
You put your rock stars where they can be on TV all the time.
Exactly.
And that's why you put Jared Moskowitz and AOC next to James Comer.
Mm-hmm.
AOC is going to be sitting next to James Comer, questioning everything he does, using Robert's Rules of Order to tie him in knots.
If you want to look smart, sit next to James Comer. Now, I realize that smart codes as condescending among stupid people, but at this point, again, I'm not obliged to care about what stupid people think. That's the job of people who want to run campaigns, who want to peel off some center-right voters and blah, 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 blah. Fuck all that. No, I want to see these people beaten up in their own house repeatedly by a girl. I think that would be awesome.
To the point where Fox won't use their clip that night because it's too embarrassing.
Exactly.
And that's okay because they could just get Hannity to bullshit for 15 minutes instead.
Right. And that's going to happen instead. But you've ruined their content for the day.
You've ruined it. Right. Yeah. Feel free to write to both of us at proleftpodcast@gmail.com. We do love hearing from you. Driftglass brought home a real stack of Christmas cards.
Yay.
If you want a Christmas card from us, send one to us. Our address is in the show notes. It's also at our website, proleftpod.com. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go Postal Unions! Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Fire DeJoy.
Fire DeJoy. We join with Josh Hawley in his demands to fire Louis DeJoy.
Josh Hawley and Rand Paul. And I think the reason that they're protecting him is they like yelling at him.
Yeah.
It's good for their business.
They're reading the room.
Keep him on and keep yelling at him.
Yeah. They need someone to punch. They need someone to, to ragdoll around.
That it's not Trump's responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Do not forget our gourmet coffee guidelines. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, please buy one for us. This is not charity. This is, in fact, our job. If you can spare $5 a month, please spare $5 a month or more if you can. That would be appreciated. You can do this at patreon.com/proleftpod. Please also, if you dare, it's a daring move, and not all of you have the wherewithal, the heroic instinct to do this. But if you dare, go ahead and share this podcast with someone who doesn't listen to it, who you think might enjoy it. We think that might help us both, you and me, to grow the podcast and increase our reach and influence to the point where Kristen Welker might invite us on her show. So if you love the show, please get other people to listen to it. We really do appreciate it.
And a shout out to all the Bob Seska listeners.
Yeah.
Who have joined in and started listening to our show. We've heard from lots of you. Mm-hmm. Welcome aboard. We love Bob. We are in intense negotiations with Bob.
Yeah.
To be on the show more often.
Yeah, we've got Moskowitz working on that. So
he's got Jared Moskowitz calling. Yeah. Stop calling us, Jared Moskowitz. Okay.
Fine. We'll put it on. Fine.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, look, the Internet Kitties do not need to buy $200 Trump cologne to know it smells way worse than their litter box does on its worst day.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.